Wow, I wasn't expecting that. So Jurassic World Rebirth is a movie released in 2025 starring Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey and Rupert Friend, and directed by Gareth Edwards. Now straight away, this is a spoiler-free review, so there will be no mentions of anything or any important plot points that happen throughout this movie during this review. And firstly, I had really low expectations going into this. If you've seen my other reviews of the movies building up to this, the Jurassic World movies have really fallen off a cliff, and I was just expecting more of the same with this one. I was pleasantly surprised, and actually it is, for me, perhaps what Fallen Kingdom or Dominion should have actually been. And this is something that is completely separate to the main Jurassic World, Jurassic Park storyline as it continues. This almost is like it feels like a spin-off. So the movie begins 17 years ago, where we focus in on a research lab that's doing work on genetic combinations of different species of dinosaur. It is more of the same of what we've seen before. However, what we focus in on this time is an animal or a dinosaur called the D-Rex. And this whole scene is actually quite reminiscent of Alien, where you've just got that claustrophobic feel of something just going wrong. The dinosaur they're working on gets loose and just you see it kill one person, but the insinuation is it's gone on to wipe out the rest of the lab. And the colour grading in this is it just brings that whole tone into more of a horror aspect, more intense than anything that's come before it in this series. And that follows it all the way through the film, really. I mean, some of the deaths in this are really actually quite just absolutely brutal. But anyway, that dinosaur is released, or it breaks free. It's insinuated it kills most of the research lab. You see it kill one person, and then we jump forward into the present day. And it fills in the gaps between where we left off with Dominion and what we've got at the start of this movie, where we have the dinosaurs that inhabited sort of the major cities of the world, unfortunately died off because they couldn't sort of cope with the climate or the environment. It wasn't the right sort of atmosphere or oxygen level. However, the ones that have survived are down in the equator area because it does closely mirror the environment in which they lived in sort of all those millions of years ago. Those areas are now no-go zones for humans. They are strictly illegal now to enter as a human. And it's almost as if human beings have just grown to accept dinosaurs as part of their everyday life. And we see that humans now are no longer fascinated by dinosaurs. They're no longer impressed by them. It's just a case of, fair enough. And that's it. And it's not just for the live dinosaurs either. It's anything to do with like any sort of fossils or any facts about dinosaurs. It's just all gone. Well, all interest in it, it's just all gone. And it's here we're introduced to Scarlett Johansson's character of Zora, who is recruited by a pharmaceutical company, represented by Martin, played by Rupert Friend, who enlists Scarlett Johansson to ultimately go and retrieve some samples from living dinosaurs in that restricted zone. He manages to convince her to go along with it with the promise of $10 million, and it emphasises the whole point of nobody can know that they're going there. The knowledge needs to be kept under wraps and given to as few people as possible because it is highly illegal to go there. We move on, we're introduced to Dr. Loomis, who's played by Jonathan Bailey, who is recruited as the advisor part to identify the dinosaurs they're interested in. And he is recruited from Martin appealing to his sort of paleontology-based life, wanting to sort of see dinosaurs up close and personal, not in a zoo environment or controlled environment, but actually in their natural habitat, something which he's never had to experience or never been able to experience before. And it's here that we also get the key plot details of ultimately they need to get samples from 3 types of dinosaur, the biggest dinosaurs there because they have the biggest hearts, and it's all with the purpose of being able to develop heart medication for humans, which can prolong their life for another 20 years. There are 3 types of dinosaur they're looking for. They're looking for the largest land dinosaur, the largest sea dinosaur, and the largest airborne dinosaur. So Mosasaur is the largest sea animal, the Titanosaur is the largest land animal or land dinosaur, and they're looking at the largest pterosaur as well for the airborne based one. So now we know exactly what the targets are, what the focus of the plot is, And then we get introduced to Captain Duncan, who's played by Mashallah Ali, who delivers an excellent performance in this role. It's fantastic to watch. And the story progresses from there on the journey to the island. We get quite a lot of character build up, as in we see through discussions between the two characters, the way they interact with each other. Scarlett Johansson, Zora, and Duncan, they do already know each other. They have a history, and they do talk about that life behind their job, you know, behind the special ops stuff that they do. And it is actually really good dialogue and really good world building behind it. We then have sort of moments between Dr. Loomis and Zora as well, just to bring that whole vibe together, to make it feel as though they're actually one team, and we're supporting, we're behind them and rooting for them. And it's, yeah, again, it's really, really good character building. But then we're introduced to another group of characters, which are essentially a family, where you have the dad, an older daughter, a younger daughter, a child, and the older daughter's boyfriend. And that's the only name I can remember, Xavier, because his name is mentioned near enough in every single scene because he's such an idiot and really irritating to the point where he does drag this film down. Now, these characters, they do have a character arc built into their whole dynamic, and it's mainly around Xavier sort of proving himself to be a decent person at the end of it all, really. Whilst he does have the opinion of himself that he isn't good enough to date the daughter, he does sort of prove in his actions that actually he is a good person at heart. But that whole dynamic is just wasted in this film, because realistically you could take that group of characters out of the plot and it doesn't change the movie at all. For me, it does just sideline and slow down the action. We should really be focused in on the main group of characters with their mission, their quest well set out, and it's all about them fulfilling that. And that's the way it should be. These side characters, they just bog it down. They're introduced for a reason, but after that, they serve absolutely no purpose throughout the rest of this movie. And the film does a really good job of setting up sort of like the parameters of how, or there's certain things that the characters need to achieve in order to reach their goal, such as they need to be within 10 feet of the dinosaur in order to fire the sort of like the sample take, or the blood vial that ultimately fills up automatically, then releases itself. It explains all that really well, and it does sort of give us an idea of exactly what we need to expect when they are going about their mission. Now, for one reason or the other, I'm not going to explain why, because I don't want to ruin it for you, but they do end up stranded on the island, but there is a backup plan in place. So again, we know exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it by. And there are obstacles that are put in place throughout, but the obstacles do actually make sense in this film and don't feel as though it's just something else put in place to drag the plot back out again. Now, I mentioned that this other family, that all these side characters, they do sort of drag the story out, but not to a point where it grinds the action to a halt. It is a well-driven story. It is well-driven by the action, and you know exactly where you are with regard or in the story. Scarlett Johansson, Mashallah Ali, and Jonathan Bailey have an excellent chemistry together, and it's almost effortless when you watch them all just interact with each other. They do have times just alone with each other, and just building up those character arcs are just done so well. And this film, it feels very similar to Alien at the beginning, with the horror element in it and just that feeling of being trapped. And that claustrophobic feeling that was in the originals is back in here, in that we are in a jungle and it does feel quite close, and just you feel as though almost you can't move because there's always some element of danger just lurking nearby. And it just gives that sense of dread and tension throughout the whole movie. And this does not let you rest at any point, even when you think that everything is fine, even when the characters are celebrating success at one point, it gets ripped away from them straight away. And it's just, again, it feels that, and you feel the impact of every single death that happens. Whilst it might be only one or two characters connected to the one that's died, you feel it because the sound effects in this they're so hard hitting. The special effects in this are fantastic as well. There's a scene with the T-Rex in it, and you feel the terror in it because you just see the threat right in front of you and there's no getting away from it. I was almost sat in my seat sort of squirming away because of the film doesn't pan away from it. It fills you, or fills the frame with that face growling and just roaring in front of you, and you feel it hit you, and it immediately puts you in the position of those characters, and you feel the dread that they're feeling as well. But all in all, this is a very, very tight story, and one that is, I mean, it is just, it's a well-paced movie, and the plot is just so clear and easy to follow, and you can follow the breadcrumbs as they lead you through, and you can make the links here and there before they do land, but not way before either to take you out of it altogether. The acting in this is superb. The effects are fantastic. The sound effects they just take you right smack bang into the middle of the action. And the only drawback I've got on this is just the involvement or the inclusion of the side characters that do hold this film back, in my opinion, from it being as good as perhaps the original, or just less than the original Jurassic Park. That being said, I had a great time with this movie, enjoyed it from start to finish, and this for me is exactly what the Jurassic World franchise should have been. This really should have been what Fallen Kingdom was, and the direction they've taken as well. I mean, they've done everything that Dominion should have done and didn't, in the fact they focused in on the threat being the dinosaurs. It's siding with the humans against the dinosaurs. There's no dinosaurs coming to their rescue. There's no overuse of a certain type of dinosaur that you may have seen in the past, and there's no reliance on a new dinosaur grabbing your attention. Whilst there is a new dinosaur in this, it is very much saved until the very end. There is no sort of ongoing threat of it throughout, and that for me is just it's great. It just relies on everything that has already been built up in that world, but with a whole new angle and a whole new reason to explore this side of it. So overall, because of all those reasons, I am going to give this a 4-star review. It for me does fall short of the first one, of the first Jurassic Park, but I don't think there's anything that's ever going to meet that. It revisits the world the same way that Jurassic World, the first one, did, with it bringing a whole new way of looking at it, as in the established theme park, the way it should have been. This brings it forward, takes us back nicely once again, but with a whole new dynamic and a whole new story. And yeah, by all means, do go and see this, because it will surpass all of your expectations that the previous movies have left you with. So that was my review of Jurassic World Rebirth. Have you guys seen it yet? What did you guys think about it? Whatever you thought, put it in the comment section below, because I'd love to have a read. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one.